Terri Roberts, and Vice President of On-Site Retailers. My businesses are primarily in airports. I'm in 6 different airport locations, and I do news and gifts and food and beverage, but all in concessions in airports. So I'm going to, not to repeat a lot of what Mac and Jody shared with you, but they were right on point in terms of when you first get started. Since we're talking about, here we go, funding for the impatient entrepreneur. What many of you are going to find that when you get out in this work market, a lot of you are going to have to create your own, I've never used one of these before, so this is kind of fun. A lot of you guys are going to have to create your own opportunity and make your own doors, because the job market will be a little bit different, so you'll find that you're going to be an entrepreneur regardless of whether you like it or not. And so we're here to hopefully kind of walk you through some of those steps. One of the first things you'll find is that you are going to have to be comfortable talking about your service or your product. You're going to have to become an expert about it. Know it, love it, embrace it. If someone asks you a question, be able to tell them everything you can possibly know, because you're your biggest salesperson. And if you feel comfortable with it and talking about it, more than likely someone's going to take an interest and they'll want to hear what it is that you have to say. I'm not going to go too much into this because Jody and Matt kind of covered it, but they're absolutely right. When Jody said that she probably can tell you down to the piece of thread what it's going to cost her in order to produce that product and how much markup she needs in order to make a profit. But you have to know, and even if you haven't started, start just doing a little market research, start asking questions, but have some idea of the product or service that you're going to offer, what it is, how much it's going to cost you to get started. The hardest part, of course, is getting started, is raising the capital. I always think that we started with family and friends, and I think Major touched on it a little bit. He said, you know, you grow up and all of a sudden your grandparents, they know how bad you were, so they're not going to believe, oh, that you can actually do this. But I have a different thought process on that. Start out with asking family and friends. They're easy to practice on. They will tell you, you know, the truth. I think they'll be very honest with you. But when you start asking for funds to support your business, make sure that you are clear as to whether or not, whether it's friends or family, that it's a loan or it's an investment, because there's a big difference between the two. So lay out that structure and make sure you're all on the same page. A lot of you will start with self-funding, and that's whether you're using your own capital or whether you are, you've worked and you've saved up for it or whatever, and that's a natural route to go. Don't be afraid of it. Most importantly, create a plan. They talked about that. First time someone told me to do a business plan, I was absolutely petrified. But then I realized that a business plan is just like Max said, it's your thoughts. Just put it on paper. Put why you assume that certain things are going to happen. Do as much research as you possibly can. Start collecting all of that stuff, and you'll be surprised when you go back and look at it in 6 months. You can extract enough information, and you have a business plan. When you first start out, you're going to find that one of the hardest things is to get credit. A lot of times, and regardless of whether you're providing a product or service, people are going to ask you to do COD, which is cash on delivery. That's okay to start with. A personal guarantee, if you have assets, that's also okay to start with. However, that is not a sustainable plan. You cannot start giving cash all the time, because you want to keep your cash so that it can work for you. So if you find yourself in that position, make sure that you work out terms with your suppliers and your vendors and say, okay, I'm a new company, I'm getting started for 6 months. I will pay you the first couple of months, my deliveries in cash, but can we talk about terms after that? Establish that right up front, because they'll take your cash as long as you let them take your cash. And you want to keep your cash as long as you can so it will work for you. Also, make sure that the vendors and suppliers that you're working with, that you establish a good relationship with them, keep the lines of communication open. Make sure that you get someone's name in the credit department so that you can call them up and say, look, you know what, I've been doing business with you for 6 months. I'm in a new business starting out. Can I use you for a reference? If they say yes, get that person's name and number, and make sure you're using them directly for a reference to call. So many companies, we have great credit. We were listing Coca-Cola once, because we do hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for Coca-Cola. We listed them for a reference, just thought, oh, you know, when they call them up, it'll be fine. Someone finally called back and said, you know, the Coca-Cola people, they never answer their phone. You know, they never, you know, you want to get a good reference, and as much business as we were doing with them, you would think that they would, but make sure you have a contact to actually give you a good reference. One of the most important things, and I'm sure that you guys will probably agree, is your banker. make sure that you have someone in the bank that you can pick up the phone and call. If there's an emergency, if you have some funds that are coming through that you weren't anticipating, keep the lines of communication open with your banker.